Have you ever experienced burnout? I know I have. We all know how exhausting burnout can be, but have you ever realized how disconnected burnout makes you from yourself? That is exactly what we are here to talk about today. Your transformation starts here. And yes, it is time to water yourself. We'll be right back. Listen, Wednesdays may be a hump day for some people, but it need not be for you. How would it feel to just hit pause for a moment? A chance to refresh and re-energize your mind, body, and spirit. Let's find out together on the Water Yourself Wednesday show. Tune in as real women share their stories of triumphs and transformations and how they have manifested the lives that they desire and truly deserve. Hello and welcome to the Water Yourself Wednesday show. My name is Shannon Malkin Daniels, and many of you know me as a public speaking, communication, and confidence coach, as well as the founder of Incaptive. But what you may not know is I am the author of Water Yourself, the book that inspired Water Yourself Wednesdays and the upcoming Water Yourself retreat. Today, in this episode of Water Yourself Wednesdays, we're going to be talking with Bridget Aileen Cisco. After running a company for 2 years, a publishing company, and working with over 200 authors across 14 different countries, let that sink in, 200 authors across 14 different countries, Bridget hit a wall of burnout. She found herself feeling disconnected from herself, her work, and really missing the enthusiasm and magic that had been present when she started her entrepreneurial journey. Tune in this week you're tuned in this week if you're listening. So tune in if you haven't already, grab a friend, bring them here. And I'm going to be sitting down with Bridget and talking about this very thing. We're going to talk about her taking a giant step back to find herself and taking a big leap of faith. So a little bit about Bridget before I dive in. Bridget is a brand strategist, publisher, and the co-author of Visibility on Purpose, a media training school helping business owners grow their audience and land top-tier media without having to hire a publisher. She's well known for her way with words and ability to transform copy and a brand's message into something that's direct and compelling. Bridget believes in the power of words, stories, and voices to shift our view of reality, our potential, and purpose on the planet. Over the years, she's spoken nationally and internationally in front of thousands and worked with hundreds of clients. Bridget's been featured in Ask Men, Women's Business Daily, Medium, on RVN TV, Ticker News, News 12 New York, and several podcasts. Beyond business, Bridget's a certified yoga instructor and has been working with Warrior Strong, a veteran nonprofit, since 2018. She also teaches yoga, meditation, and mindfulness in the addiction recovery space. She lives in New Jersey with her husband and border collie beagle, Finn. So help me welcome Bridget to the show. Welcome, Bridget.
Hey, Shannon. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Before the show, we were chatting just a little bit about burnout and what it feels like, but we were also talking about how you and I, when we met, we haven't known each other that long, but it feels like it's been an eternity since we met. When we met, it was just like twinsies about everything. We love communication. We have similar journeys and backgrounds. And I really appreciate you saying yes to being on the show today and opening up and sharing your story, because I feel like this is an important story to be told. A lot of us feel burnout and experience burnout, but are almost, I think, embarrassed to share it with people. Like, you can't say you're burnt out because it's a bad thing. So I'd like to just jump in by having you tell us a little bit. You've done all the things, clearly, and you're still doing all the things, but in a different way. I'd love for you to just start out by telling us about what led you to hit that wall and finally make that decision to take that leap of faith.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I love that we have this beautiful connection with our business work, but also our interpersonal, personal development, spiritual work at the same time. So, even as you read those numbers, Shannon, I was like, oh my God, no wonder why I hit a wall of burnout. That was it's a lot of people to work with in a very short amount of time. And I was so excited because I love storytelling. I love working with women. I love producing books and bringing and helping women amplify those voices. But at the same time, I think I let my excitement get the best of me. And it is funny because I'm a yoga teacher. I teach meditation. Like, I understand the practices and the principles to help get myself out of it. Yet I still found myself heart racing at night, feeling really anxious, working way, way longer hours wise than I wanted to be per day. And I feel like so many people can resonate with this. I didn't even realize I was having that experience until I literally was like, why can I not sleep anymore? Right? We know these things from a health perspective, that that's a sign that something is off. So yeah,
Yeah.
I definitely feel like I was embarrassed too, just like what you said.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was going, amen, sister, amen, sister, amen, sister. It's so funny. We know these things. We teach these things. I wrote a book about it and I'm a certified holistic health coach as well. And all these practices that you and I have become certified in and knowledgeable of, we know what we should be doing and what we shouldn't be doing, but we still fall victim to the trap. So tell us a little bit more about, you said you were working with all these people and it happened in a very short period of time. What really was that? Did you have an aha moment, I should say, that led you to say, I am done. I've got to stop. I've got to pull the plug and I've got to move on.
hmm Yeah, it was during an interview, and I was actually talking about publishing. And after the interview, I thought to myself, do I actually like publishing, or do I just like the idea of being a publisher? And it was at that point where I started to really ask myself, how was I showing up on a daily basis? What did my life look like? And as someone, who is also a holistic health coach who really understands that we are put on this earth to design our life, I truly believe that we as humans have free will and we have so many choices at our hand. And yet I looked at my experience and how it was showing up in my physical body and how I was feeling, and something was not right. And this is, I think, something that a lot of people can experience, right? The money might be there, but are you actually happy inside? And because of that acknowledgement of being like, this is not how I want to live, I decided to take a really big step back and completely pivot my entire business. I take a huge step back from publishing and my revenue. So it was really this journey of saying, I need to just trust something greater than me right now, because I don't want to go on living this way, especially as someone who preaches live a good life, enjoy your life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I feel the same way. I'm in that position with my tech company right now where I started it. I've been in it now for 5 years. It's so exciting. I love being an entrepreneur and I love the idea of what we built, right? But then I realized that it's this never ending thing with technology. And it's this cycle of as soon as you release something, you're 6 months behind again. And on top of it, I have a health condition that I've been diagnosed with. And it makes it really hard for me to stay on top of something that runs that fast. And I kept pushing my body and pushing my body. And I just kind of had this moment where I'm like, what am I doing? Is this bringing me the joy that I want? Or is this keeping me from having an optimal life filled with health and happiness and purpose? And I too am working on taking that step back now and shifting what I'm focusing on and working on trying to exit the technology company so that I can focus really on my coaching and working with my clients and building them up, because that's what brings me the greatest purpose and the greatest happiness. And it also gives me the freedom in my life and in my career to focus on my health and taking care of me. And when I re-released Water Yourself earlier this year, that was kind of my aha moment of stepping into this and going, whoa, I need to remind myself to take my own advice. So have you ever had those moments where you feel like you're running, I know you're doing several other things now, as we talked about with your bio, right? But have you ever had those moments, or do you continue to have those moments that trigger you and say, I'm approaching burnout? And when you do have those moments, what do you do to reset yourself and prevent yourself from moving into full blown burnout?
Mm. Well, once I acknowledged that how I was showing up, how I was living my life, how I was running this business needed to change. Business owners know this, that you can't just do that overnight, right? I had clients, I had books still coming out. So I needed to be strategic about how I actually showed up publicly, how I interacted with my clients, and really keep this inward journey a little bit to myself. I was no longer taking on new publishing clients. So I was very, very clear on that. And I understood that I was going to go through a season of changing the income that was coming into my life. But in that time, I also was guided back to, who am I? What do I love doing? What has always been there and what has always been true for me? And when I asked myself those questions, it was very simple, right? I've always loved connecting to nature. So I started doing a year-long herbalism school, which I'm doing currently. I started realizing that what I love to do is I love to speak, I love to communicate, I love to teach, and I love to bring people together. So I said, okay, in this period of time, I'm taking a step back from what I know and how I've been showing up. And this was my identity for 2 years. I'm going to take that step back, but I'm going to take the steps towards doing what I know and love. So in that time, I had some incredible speaking opportunities that came through, and I got to still do things that I loved and enjoyed. But I think taking that step back and really understanding that and asking myself, who am I beyond this business, or who am I beyond this burnout? Who am I really? I think that's a great place for everyone who's here to start, because it's so easy to identify with how we show up, or we're habitual as humans. So we just keep going and keep going and keep going. And we tend to not zoom out and say, do I actually enjoy what's going on here? And who am I really?
Yeah. It's funny that you said zoom out right as Zeph pulled me on the screen and you zoomed out. That was totally not planned, everybody, but it added emphasis. I love that. And what you were saying about showing up and who am I and identifying with your work, as well as being intentional and kind of having to be behind the scenes about letting go of your publishing business. I'm in that space now, and I'm just finally starting to publicly talk a little bit about the steps I'm taking towards exiting my business, because I also have to be careful. We have clients and customers, and I don't want them to feel like, oh, this technology is going kaput. It's not. It's still running. We still have an entire team around it. I'm not going to let it go, and I'm going to be very intentional about how the transition happens when it does sell to someone else. And then also the point you made about who am I, what's important to me, what fulfills me, what's my purpose, that's really important too. And one of the things I see happen in networking, or even just general friend get-togethers or parties, like, oh, what do you do for a living? That's very prevalent here in American society. And I like to ask, not necessarily just what do you do, why do you do what
Mm.
you do, right? Because that gets to the heart of who the person is. And a lot of people will stop and go, wait, what? You know, and they haven't really thought about it too much, or they're just shocked that someone actually asked about who they are in
Mm.
that moment. And so that's a very important point that you bring up for people to think about their purpose behind their work and why they do what they do. And I think that's a big step towards preventing burnout, right? What are your thoughts on aligning purpose with burnout and how those two things coincide with each other?
It's a really good question, and it's hard for me to answer directly, because as someone who understands the importance of taking care of our bodies. Like, this has been my experience since I was 13 years old with Lyme disease, having chronic health issues and bringing myself back from that. I understand how important lifestyle and health and purpose and passion are. And it's like, at the same time, did I need to go through that experience to fully understand what this meant? And I don't have the perfect answer, because I don't know what could have necessarily prevented it. But the way I look at this now, and I'm sure that a lot of people who are listening can resonate with this too, it's like, I'm actually very grateful for this experience. It taught me a lot about myself, taught me a lot about what happens when I keep going and I don't take those moments to reflect, during my day, during the seasons, during the quarters of the year, because I am that person who's so excited about so many different things that I can just continue on. So I have a therapist who supports me in that process to say, hey, like, what's going on in your life right now? Like, how are you feeling? I have mentors, and it really brought me back to just some of the practices that have helped me for such a long time: exercise, meditation, yoga. I did a lot of cooking at that time. So, to answer your question, it's like, what could have prevented it? I don't know. Was I meant to have that experience? I still am navigating the answer to that, but I'm grateful that I had the experience. And I think it's all a puzzle piece in our journey anyway.
Yeah, I agree. I think our trials and tribulations define us and actually help us in a lot of ways. And it sounds like a weird thing. Would I ever want to go through this? Would I choose to go through this? No. But going through what I've gone through with my health and all the surgeries and everything, and this condition that I've been diagnosed with, CRPS, it it's changed my way of thinking, and it's changed my approach to a lot of things. And I hate it, but in some ways I'm grateful for it too, because I've learned a lot about myself, like you said, and I'm able to now use this experience to help others. And that's what it's all about. I feel like it's important for us to use our experiences to help others. And we've both been in the burnout cycle of these things and seen how it impacts us. And now we can share those stories with other people so that they can learn from them. And if you have been going through burnout, or if you've gone through burnout in the past and have come through it, and you're tuned in either live or in the recording, drop it in the comments for us. Tell us what your burnout experience was like and what you learned from that experience, because it's really important for us to lean on and support one another through all of these things. Now, as we wrap up, Bridget, I just want to ask, what little tidbits of advice or wisdom do you have to share based on either your own experiences or the hundreds of authors you've worked with and the stories that you've read from them? What do you have to share with our audience about that and the importance of what you've learned from those stories?
Hmm. I think it's so crucial, and this has always been a thread for all of those authors and myself too, is having the community of people that you can open up to. I noticed that when I'm in a spiral of some sort as a human being, I tend to keep it to myself, right? I think a lot of us do that. It's like, oh, we don't want to, burden anyone else with what we're experiencing or what we're going through. But actually, when we change that script and share it with someone else, we almost feel like this weight lifted off ourselves. And when I started to talk to friends and family about like what I was experiencing, they were like, okay, you know that you do have choices here, right? You're not like locked into doing this for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need that community around us to hold the mirror up and say, hey, I hear you. I'm understanding what you're saying. And what if something else is possible for you too? So I think that through all those stories and through my own experience, having the people around you is unparalleled.
Yeah, we did an exercise at a summit I was at last week. We were at the Ladies Power Lunch Live Your Optimal Life Summit, and Elizabeth Hill led us through an exercise where we wrote down, close your eyes, envision what your optimal life looks like, and write it down. Write down that day. Like, what happens when you wake up? What does the day look like? Who's there? What's around you, right? What is that experience? And then after that, we wrote down what's holding us back from being there. What are those obstacles? And then she had us write down 5 people, 3 to 5 people in our life that are going to help us to overcome those obstacles and get to that optimal life that we wanted. And I absolutely loved that. So I'd like to encourage everybody in our audience to do that. Write down those 5 people in your life that are going to be there for you no matter what, through all the hard times, through the burnout, through the trials and the tribulations, because those are the people you're going to lean on. And those are the people that are really going to support you through it. And then you got to take a couple of those people and invite them to come to the Water Yourself retreat so we can all spoil ourselves together. So, well, thank you, Bridget. This has been absolutely wonderful talking with you. Really appreciate you being on the show. And we hope that you'll join us at the upcoming retreat. And for all of you that are out there, we hope to see you at the Water Yourself retreat, April 19th through the 21st of 2024 at the Mansion at Glen Cove in Long Island. We are going to stay at this beautiful Gatsby style mansion. We're going to do some deep inner work, some outer work, yoga, meditation, and things like that. And then we are going to have lots of fun while we're there. One of my activities that I'm going to do is a shake that shit off dance party. So we're just going to get in a room and have fun and shake that shit off. That's one of the ways that I like to deal with burnout. Just shake it all off, listen to some positive music. So again, thank you for being with us, Bridget. Really appreciate you joining us for the show today.
Thank you so much, Shannon. Thanks for everyone for listening.
Yes. And have a great day, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to the show. We hope the stories shared have inspired you to water yourself. Your transformation begins here. Until next time, keep on manifesting the life you desire and truly deserve. The Water Yourself Wednesdays show is a production of Engage LLC and is brought to you by Water Yourself Retreat. Get more information about the event and community support at wateryourselfretreat.com. You can also follow us on your favorite social media platforms, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube.